everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Jeff Neal, and I am part of the Client Services team here at Academic Analytics. We are happy to have you all join us for today's webinar, which is part of our Coffee Break series. During the webinar, if you run into any technical issues, please reach out to Stephanie Dunn, who is our events coordinator. You can message her directly through the chat feature at the bottom of the screen. Just a few housekeeping notes to mention before getting started. All attendees are on mute, but we certainly want to hear from you. So please use the chat feature to post any questions and feedback. For any we are not able to address during the webinar, the associate who works with your campus will reach out to follow up. For today's webinar, my colleague Caroline Alaconis, the associate team lead in client services, will be discussing leveraging academic analytics for academic program review. Now, Caroline, I'll turn the presentation over to you.
All right, well, thank you, Jeff, and thank you all for joining us this morning. So we do have a lot to cover on this topic, so I wanted to reiterate what Jeff said earlier. If we are not able to get to your questions during the session, your associate and liaison will follow up with you. And of course, please feel free to reach out to them afterward with any questions. So today, let me just go ahead here and advance a slide. So today I'll be walking through ways academic analytics can be leveraged for program review. So as we all know, program review is an extensive process that has a lot of moving parts. It not only includes preparation of the self-study document, but also coordinating a site visit where external reviewers are invited to provide their own assessment of the unit. Academic analytics can significantly help in these areas, particularly in the collection of data for the self-study report and also in the identification of reviewers. The three areas I will be covering today listed here are one, how academic analytics can help with identifying peer institutions and units. Also, how the data can be utilized to highlight the research strengths and areas of improvement of the unit. And then finally, I will also be discussing how the data can be used to identify external reviewers. So I will go ahead and get started on talking about identifying peer institutions. So I'm going to exit out of here and go into the portal. And I am in the benchmarking section right now, using anonymized data from a crop and soil sciences department. So before the data collection starts for the self-study report, it is important to identify the peer sets for comparison. You know, typically departments will have peers and aspirational peers in mind. The institution may also have some recommendations on this front. But academic analytics can also be used to identify peers based on research attributes. So here on this page, I wanted to start off by talking about unit metrics. And so if we were to expand this, this is going to show all of the units within the discipline that this unit is being compared to. And here you can select any particular metric category for further drill into a variable of interest. So let's say we wanted to look at articles per faculty. And we wanted to see what are the departments that are similar in terms of that metric. So here we have this unit highlighted, 15.5 articles per faculty. And that is in a 4-year time window for articles. That's the default for that. So 2017 through 2020. And you would be able to see where that department sits among all of those others. And with information like this, you can quickly glean what are those units that are just above and just below you all. Not only can you look at the individual variables, but you can also look at the overall research activity of these units. So you can switch this to the scholarly research index, and you can look at that value as a percentile, a rank, or you can look at the scores. And as a reminder, that index is a composite score that takes into account a combination of all of the metrics that we are looking at. So here we keep this on percentile. We can see for this unit that there are 3 other units that have that same value. And again, you can quickly glean what are those units that are just above and just below this unit in terms of overall research activity. If you would like to work with the raw data, and I know a lot of individuals who do and would prefer to use the data in that way, there are ways to download this information. So on this particular screen, there is a download button here, and this will provide you with the listing of these units and all of these metric values. Another thing that you would be able to do is if we scroll up to near the top of this page, you will also see a download full data button. And so here you could download a very extensive CSV file that will have all of these units listed and their aggregate metrics. So looking at total articles, total citations, total grants. It would also include the number of faculty in each of these units. So you can slice, filter, and sort the data in any way you would like here and find similar departments based on any combination of the metrics. In addition to the unit metrics section that we just looked at, there are also these metric tabs that take things one step further. So everything from articles all the way up through books. And what these metric tabs enable you to do is to look at subsets of things. So here with the articles tab, by default, we are looking at the top 100 journals that faculty in this discipline have published in. And this is top 100 based on the volume of publications in those journals. But you can change this. So here you could look at all, you could look at the top 20, and you can also select specific journals on this list. And with this information, you'll see how many articles the faculty in this department have published, how many articles were published by peers, and we also show the average citations per publication as well. So you can make your journal selections here and then get comparative information in the article market share view right beside it. So this is very similar to unit metrics that we saw earlier. All of those units are listed. And as we scroll through this, we're going to see the unit we've selected highlighted here. 261 articles published in that subset of top 100 journals. Those 261 article publications account for about 4.5% of the articles published across the discipline. And the person icon here will show you the size of the unit as well. So this is another way where you could look at what are those institutions just above and just below you all in terms of where the faculty are publishing, and also by size of the units. We have tabs for the other metrics as well, where you could zero in on federal funding or specific honorific awards. And then we also have the books tab. So for instance, if you are in a discipline that is not heavily weighted in terms of article publications, but is in terms of books, we have a similar tab here where you can run comparisons based on the presses and get that same book market share information like what we saw for articles. So those are some of the ways in the portal itself that you can identify peers. And then the other thing that I wanted to show here is an example of a custom report that we have in this area. It is called the Department Research Peer Identification Report. And this is something that does need to be requested through the analyst team. This is not available in Analysis on Demand. But this is a way to identify peers based on journals that the faculty in the unit are publishing in, and also by research activity. So here we're looking at the linguistics and philosophy department at MIT. And we have a list of their top 10 journals based on volume of publications. And in this graphic here, the scatter plot, we can see the percent of articles in those concentration journals. For each of all these circles are departments. And on the y-axis is going to be the overall research activity for these units, as indicated by the scholarly research index percentile. The red dot is the department at MIT. And you can see some of the data there. And then you can see this cluster of departments that appear to be similar in terms of their percent of articles in those concentration journals and also in their overall research activity. And with this report, what you can do is you can select those departments within the graph, and then you can see what those peers are. So this has also been helpful to institutions to further expand their peer sets. So those are some of the ways the portal and this report can help you to identify peers. So once the peers have been identified, then the next step is to gather the data for the self-study report. And so academic analytics has a number of visualizations that can help to highlight what the research strengths and areas of improvement are for the unit. So I'm going to highlight a few of those here. So on this page, the first tool that I wanted to cover here is the productivity radar. And this is going to show how this unit compares to peers in the discipline across all of these metrics around it. The outer band of this is the 100th percentile, or the top percentile for the discipline. Outer band of the gray circle is the 50th percentile. And the colored sections will show you the values for this unit. So for instance, in terms of articles per faculty, this unit is at the 64th percentile. And we can see from looking at this that this is a strong unit with respect to research activity. It is at or above the median on most of the metrics. The only place where this unit appears to be a bit lower on some of these metrics would be honorific awards. So this strikes me as being a unit that is highly research active, but potentially under-recognized. And so there's some opportunity there to further recognize those faculty for their scholarship. Right beside that is the box plots, and I've seen used these in a lot of program review reporting. Provide some context to the productivity radar. There is a box plot for each of the metrics. And let's say we look at articles per faculty. On this axis, you can see the range of that variable across the discipline. And so here, the black line would represent the median. The dot is the value for this unit, 15.5. And so it's plots like these can give a unit a sense of what it would take to get them to the next level of research activity. How many more article publications might it take to get to the top quartile, for instance? And another tool that I did want to highlight here that I've seen used more in program review reporting is collaborations. So here, this can be a tool that can help to look at the collaborativeness of a unit. And so here we're looking at the people and who they're collaborating with within the unit. You can look across units on campus, and you can also look at this information nationally as well. Not only can you do this by individual scholar, but you can also do this by unit, and you can see all the other units this unit has collaborated with, and you can also look at this information nationally. So this can really help to gauge the interdisciplinarity of a unit. So the visualizations and data that I've shown you so far are based on the most current data that we have, which is our 2020 database. So that is a snapshot of data looking at faculty as of academic year 2020, 2021. And this includes research data up through calendar year 2020. But as you know, program review often runs in various cycles. Some institutions have 5-year reviews, 7 years, 10-year reviews. So longitudinal data can be very important to report along with this. And we do have reports that do have longitudinal data within them. Those are going to be in the analysis on demand section. So there are 3 reports that I wanted to highlight here. And so these reports are going to be the longitudinal analysis, the longitudinal collaborations percentile analysis, and also the unit composition analysis. And I have pulled these up for another institution, at least the first 2 here. And so the longitudinal analysis is a way to look at these metrics over time. And this particular report looks at 7 years of data, starting at the 2014 database. It's going to come up here again. And this goes up through calendar year or the 2020 database here, and you'll be able to see where there have been increases, where the unit has stayed stable over time, where there have been decreases. So this can be a really useful report for providing that trends information. And the view that I was showing you was just one view in the report looking at the per capita values. I did preload this, but of course it's just taking a little bit of time to come up here. But again, this is what the visualization looks like. And we are using data for MIT in this case. And with these views, you do need to select a particular department to look at. And so I have the physics one that was set up earlier. So this is what that view looks like. There's also unit box plots as well, which will show you that comparative information, where here, the orange dots that will appear within these tables will be the values for the units. The gray circles are departments at other institutions, and you'll be able to look at that data, not only in terms of overall research activity, but also looking at the individual metrics as well. And then in terms of collaborations, we also have ways of looking at that longitudinally. So this is the longitudinal collaborations percentile analysis. And this particular view is looking at external collaborations at an institution. All of the departments are plotted here. The x-axis has 2014 data, looking at the number of external collaborative works per faculty. The vertical axis has the 2020 data, looking at that same metric. And here we see this diagonal line that's sort of cutting through this. For the units that are above that line, those are going to be those that have increased in external collaborative works over time. Those that are below the line have decreased in terms of collaborative works. And then the other report that I did want to highlight here, I'm not going to bring it up just for time purposes here, but to go back to analysis on demand. The very last report in here is the unit composition analysis. And this will provide information in terms of how many faculty are in your units, and then you'll see comparative information on that. And it also looks at the composition of that unit. So looking at full professors versus associate faculty versus assistant faculty. Not only does it look at that data for the current database, but there's also a longitudinal view in here as well, where you can look at different years of that information. So this can be also very helpful for a self-study report. So those are some of the tools and data that can be helpful as far as the data collection efforts for the self-study report. So the last item that I did want to talk about today is how to identify external reviewers for the site visits associated with these reviews. So that is going to take us into Research Insight. And Research Insight is a search tool where you can search for faculty, collaborative networks, and funding opportunities related to topics that you enter into the search. This is what the default search looks like. You can do a search by research topic, also within your institution, but you can expand this. You can do a state search here or even a national search. So for today, I'm going to use a national search since we're going to be looking for external reviewers. And one other thing I did want to point out here is not only do you have the ability to search for individuals by topic, but you can also look for faculty by name. And not only scholars at your institution, as I mentioned, but any scholar in the database, you can view their profile here. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, we are looking for external reviewers for a mathematics department that specializes in statistics and also data science. So we could start off with doing a search in those areas. So I'll put in statistics, and then we can also put or data science. And as you can see, you can use multiple terms in these searches. You can use phrases like what I've done here. I did want to point out this help menu. And if you wanted to have more information about the Boolean search logic, you could type in that term, click on that help section there, and you can see some of the different ways you can do searches. So now I'm going to kick off this search. And this is going to provide a listing of faculty across the country who have those terms coming up somewhere in their research. And in terms of how the search algorithm works, it is looking through any titles and or abstracts we have for all of that research activity data that we're collecting. So right off the bat, we have this listing of 200 scholars. As you can see, they come from a number of disciplines, several in engineering, biostatistics, neurosciences. You can further refine this listing of scholars. So beneath the search box, there is refine your search. Number of ways to do that. You can drill into specific institutions, also by faculty rank. That is something I'm going to do here. Is select only associate and full professors for this. You can also look for particular disciplines. So in this case, I'm going to narrow this down to mathematics. And let's go ahead and add statistics to this as well. Then you would click on apply. And then you can kick off a new search. So soon we will see a refined listing of scholars who are doing work in these areas who meet the criteria that we were looking for. And for any of these scholars, you can pull even more information for them. So let's say we were to look at this individual who's in statistical science. This individual is from Southern Methodist University. We can see all of the scholarly works this individual has produced. There's a timeline view of that information, so you can see all of those organized by year, so you can see the trajectory of one scholarship. And then there's also related terms and people. So this is going to show us a word cloud for this individual, showing the terms coming up most frequently and uniquely across their research. So you can get a better idea of what their research interests are. And then beneath that is a listing of similar scholars. And this can be very useful, if this person is somebody you're considering to invite to be a reviewer. Here are a number of other individuals who appear to be similar to this scholar based on these terms. And there are ways to refine this list. So if you were to click on the refine button, some of those same filters that we had seen earlier, we could do the same things here, like limit this down to just full professors and associate faculty. Kick that off again, and now we've narrowed it down to just those ranks. And you can click on any name here to go directly to these individuals' profiles and take a look at those. You can also download this listing of scholars. The word cloud is interactive. So if you were to click on some of these terms here, this would highlight the individuals who have those terms coming up somewhere in their research. And then lastly, you can also look at the collaborations for these individuals. And this can be very useful for program review when you're trying to find faculty who have not already collaborated with your faculty. So that is how this tool can be used to help find external reviewers. And that is the last item that I had on the agenda for today. I hope this information is useful for you all, and thank you all so much for joining us for this webinar. I'm going to kick things off to Jeff to see if there are any questions and just for some closing comments.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. I didn't see any messages in the chat, but thank you all for attending today. We will not be hosting a summer series this year, but we'll pick them back up in the fall. To view past webinars or for more information, please go to our Academic Analytics website or YouTube channel. Thanks and have a nice summer.
Thank you, everyone.